Well, for more reaction on this, we're joined by Energy Sector Analyst Chris Yelland. Chris, good evening. Thanks very much for coming through. Well, over 30 days of coal left to run power stations. What does that mean?
Well, this 30 days is an average of all power stations, excluding Medupi and Kusile. Medupi has got mountains of coal. So there are reasons for that because the project is running so late and they had been forced to take the coal. But if you exclude that, the average is 30 days. But that should
what does that mean?
It should not give you too much comfort because there are some power stations which have very much less than that and that are really facing problems at the moment. There are other power stations that do have enough coal, for example, the Tabo coal power station, which is near Vereniging. But in the Mpumalanga area, there are 7 power stations which are facing a critical shortage of coal at this moment. And that is a potential threat to security of supply.
Which means what exactly? Load shedding?
Well, what it means is that they may have to declare a coal emergency. And this would give Eskom exceptional powers to procure coal by unconventional means. Now, what I mean by that really is bypassing all tender procedures. They have to get Treasury's permission. They have to get nurses' permission. They have to declare an emergency. There are certain conditions precedent before that can be done. But that will give them exceptional powers to procure coal from all around the country, wherever it is available. But just remember, it comes at a cost. The problem is really to deliver the right coal to the right place, at the right time, and at the right price. And if you have to do emergency procurements, it may mean buying coal of not necessarily the right quality for that particular power station, because you're sourcing it from a number of different places. It may mean getting it somewhat later than you'd want for security's sake, and certainly it will mean an exceptional price, because transportation of coal by road is a very expensive business.
And come next year, they'll go to NESA and say, we want higher prices. But why was this situation not foreseen?
Well, it's a long story. But one issue, and I must stress, this is not the major issue, but it does play a role, is the Tegeta problem. Now, this is a problem that Eskom got itself into. It really forced a sale to a company, Tegeta, who really didn't have the know-how and the resources to operate these mines. And within a very short time, the owners have absconded from the country and have stopped supply to Eskom since November last year. If you were to work out how many tons of coal are not going to be delivered in 2019 financial year, it's about 7 million tons in the next year are not going to be delivered from the Tegeta mines. And that affects 3 power stations, 3 of the 7. The other 4 are not supplied by Tegeta mines, and that is the much bigger problem. In fact, if you're looking at 7 million tons, the other mines are going to face a shortfall of 20 million tons. So I just want to point out that the Tegeta problem is part of the problem, but is not the main part of the problem. The main part of the problem is that Eskom has been undercapitalizing these tied collieries. These are coal mines that are linked directly to a particular power station and supply coal directly from the colliery to the power station by conveyor belt. And Eskom has deliberately been undercapitalizing these mines in order to procure the shortfall, because when you undercapitalize a mine, its production capability starts to decline, and Eskom has been wanting to procure coal from emerging coal mining companies, and they've been doing this, and the shortfall now has grown to a very significant level, to the extent where Eskom is no longer able to procure this full shortfall from emerging coal miners. And so there's this shortage. They are now burning coal in Mpumalanga faster than they are able to procure coal. And this means the stockpiles start reducing. Now they're going to embark on emergency procurements, and that's going to come at a cost.
Okay, from what you're saying, it does look like there is no perfect solution to this. So what's a lesser devil? What can be done, but which takes into account the issue of pricing, but which also makes sure that Eskom is not allowed to fail, but in trying to resolve the situation, things don't get out of hand?
Yeah, look, Eskom, and I think it's a justifiable strategy to diversify one's sources of supply. They were very much and heavily over-dependent on a few large coal mining companies. And I don't think it's the wrong strategy to diversify and to increase the diversity in the sector, encourage emerging coal mining companies. I think that's a fair strategy. But in so doing, one mustn't shoot oneself in the foot. One has to do it in a balanced way, and perhaps they proceeded too quickly along this route to the extent where they incurred additional risk on their own system. And this is where one has to strike a reasonable balance. There's no good in going at something like a bull at a gate to the extent where you're actually damaging your own business and threatening the entire economy of South Africa.
Chris Yelland, thanks very much for talking to us this evening. You're not giving us much hope, I must say.
I do believe there is hope. I believe that with the right strategy, we can get around this.
But we're talking about here and now to avoid a crisis of load shedding. The Eskom executive said to Parliament today that they won't guarantee that load shedding is a thing of the past. That's danger lurking.
Look, there is a danger, but here and now they are asking for emergency powers to procure coal, and yes,
which, with all the dangers you've pointed out, will still has to be done. Yes. So hence I was asking you what a lesser, dangerous, if I may call it that, option would be.
Well, the cost of not having electricity to the economy is much higher than the cost of emergency procurement. So in the end, when there is that kind of confrontation before you, the lesser of two evils is to pay the price and keep the economy going.
And what are the safeguards we can put into it all to make sure that it doesn't get out of hand?
The point is, when you start this procurement, emergency procurement, it does, and it has in the past, opened the doors to corruption and maladministration. And I think people have got to be very, very aware of it this time around. Treasury needs to keep a strong oversight on this procurement to make sure that it does not get out of hand. But it will come at a price, but at a price that is less than not having electricity at all.
Yelland, that's where we're going to leave it. Thanks very much.
Thank you
for coming through this evening.